Hi.
Hello.
How you doing? You were so inspiring last time. Last time.
Well, thank you. Now I'm all jump thinker. So we'll wait just one more minute and then we'll get started. I think maybe I'll just. Well, good afternoon. Make sure you're in the right place. This is the Solar Workforce Development panel in the Holly Room. My name is Glenn Brand. I'm the Vice President of Policy and Solar Advocacy for Solar United Neighbors. And I'm going to moderate this discussion. We've got three panelists to talk about real-world solar jobs, right? And in Virginia. But I thought I'd start before introducing the panelists, by just giving an overview of solar jobs in the U.S. and in Virginia. So I just grabbed some stats. So the funny thing about the way solar jobs are tracked is that there are a lot of estimates, various estimates, and there's some differences in methodology. So, but here's the numbers that we do have. I can tell you a little about the different things here. We don't have any 2019 numbers, but we have 2018 numbers. So these numbers are obviously going to be more now. And I would say the range here is generally 335,000 to the lower estimate of the 242,000 solar jobs in the U.S. We tend to use the lower number because it's the Solar Foundation's census report. That's a number that's actually reported from installers. They send information, say we have 40 jobs in our install. And the Solar Energy, SEIA, the Solar Energy Industries Association. Yeah. They do a good job of getting all their members to send those. So that's actual, we think those are like really good numbers, but obviously not all installers participate. So that's probably too low, right? But the E2 Clean Energy Jobs Report gives us 335,000 for reference numbers. E2 says that there are 211,000 fossil fuel jobs in the U.S. Okay, so that gives you a sense of scale. I've seen other people play with the scale numbers, like how many jobs in various industries, but I think that's useful. The U.S. Bureau of Labor says the solar installer is the fastest growing jobs sector through 2026. And that represents a 105% growth. So there's a lot of growth. I think it's important to point out something, and maybe we'll talk about during the discussion, but according to the Solar Foundation, rooftop solar creates twice as many jobs as utility scale solar. Something you're going to hear a lot from people often that, rooftop solar is too expensive when we can build these giant solar farms in the middle of someplace. This is a fact that I think is useful to think about when looking at those comparisons. Of course, more jobs is in itself very important. We have a page devoted to solar jobs on our website. So if you go to solarunitedneighbors.org/learn the issues solar jobs webpage, you have these reports and links to them. So if you're interested in pursuing these numbers, you can look at it. So I'm now I'm only using slides from the Solar Foundation report. Remember, these are the lower numbers, 242,000 solar jobs in the U.S. And I thought it would be useful to take a look at the breakdown. It'll give you some sense of what we're talking about in the variety of solar jobs. You see the majority of them are, more than half are installation jobs. That reflects that twice as many number of work. And it's broken up by sector: residential, non-residential, utility scale, manufacturing, wholesale trade and distribution, operations and maintenance, and other jobs, which I assume is financing and administrative and that kind of thing. I'm not quite sure. There's also jobs in storage, which I think we should talk about as solar jobs, right? Because most storage is solar. So we got to somehow quantify those numbers too. They're real. And then they have some other numbers that are relevant, but let's go to top 10 states. Again, this is the what I'm calling the lower estimate, this solar job census. You can see California is the big winner in solar jobs. Of course, you got it relative to scale and population too, right? And then you see a cluster of states, including the 10th most, 2018 is Nevada at 6,600. So where does Virginia come in is the question. And at 3,890, according to the Solar Foundation numbers in 2018. And then they break that down further. Almost all of those are, almost all but 2/3 are installation jobs. And I thought it was interesting, 325 jobs since 2017. Some other rankings which I think are important to think about for Virginia. 9% solar jobs growth rate in 2018, 34th among the 50 states in solar jobs per capita. So there's lots of room for improvement. 255 solar companies, which I think is a really interesting number. And the solar resource rank is 28th. So, and we're not like we're talking very poor resource. We're talking about a pretty solid resource. So the jobs are clearly, we can do better. Should be. The next slide breaks it down by county. And in some cases, just reflects population size, and I'm not sure how much we can include more from this. I think someone who knows Virginia more can tell me about how we could interpret this. What makes Martinsville there, I don't know. Why are they there? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so it's a list of, obviously the first ones are population. After that. That's it. So that sort of sets the context of solar jobs. I think gives you a sense of what we mean by a solar job. But that's all abstract numbers and stuff. And the purpose of this is not to talk about the abstract, but to talk about people who are really creating solar jobs in Virginia, and to talk about what that means and what the prospects going forward. So our panelists are three professionals in the solar world. So we have Heather Burns, who is a seasoned HR leader who has led talent development and business partnership for over 25 years. She has worked for several large Fortune 500 companies, including Target and Berkeley Insurance Company, and she's currently the Vice President of Human Resources for Segura Solar. And she says she loves the challenges and excitement of working in the solar industry. I'll just introduce everybody together. Noli Diakulis, did I butcher it?
Close enough.
A great Greek name.
Yeah.
Has over a decade of experience in solar industry, has helped over 50,000 families go solar in 10 states. He worked for a few solar companies, including his own. He's currently the sales manager for Convert Solar in Virginia Beach. And then we also have Ryan Fopp, who is a self-educated jack of all trades, homeschooled through high school and decided to pursue a trade instead of going to college. He has no previous solar installation or experience before starting with Shaco Solar in 2016. With on-the-job training and under the direct supervision of the company's owner, he quickly learned the ins and outs of the solar industry. So please join me in welcoming all three panelists at once.
I'll turn it over to
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am very excited to be here to chat with you guys about jobs in solar. Definitely a passion of mine right now. Like Glenn talked about, I have spent a quarter of a century in HR, which blows my mind. So I did start at the age of 5, just so you guys know. So and it's hard to believe it's been that long, but it's been an awesome career. I've loved working in HR, and as Glenn mentioned, I've worked for very large companies, including Target, which I'm sure you've all heard of, a great place to work. A big chunk of my time was spent with Target stores. So it was really interesting to work with big organizations and see how they work. I studied HR in school, in graduate school, so I was one of the people who actually work in the field that we studied. And I have my SPHR, my SHRM, SCP certification, which when you've been in HR for a long period of time, you pass this test and you get certified. So I do have those certifications. And then in my free time, I do spend time with my daughter. My husband and I spend a lot of time with her and her acting. So this is a picture of her in Newsies. If you're going to be in Richmond in the next couple of weekends, she is young Elsa in Frozen. So we're very excited about that. So her whole life has been dealing with Frozen. I thought I'd never have to hear let it go again. And now we're back into it. So it's a great show. We love it. But it's getting a little too ready for that to happen. So I made a big change, though. I moved from working with Fortune 500 companies to a small startup. And I'll walk you through what this startup is all about. It's always been a passion of mine to work for a startup and start HR from the ground up after working for large organizations. And so I found Segura. Segura found me, and it was just an awesome match. Segura started in 2011. We're based in Charlottesville, Virginia. We are the #1 installer of residential solar in Virginia, so definitely doing a lot of residential installs. We have a produce and reduce package. I want to talk about that a little bit. We also have a 1-for-1 program. Our 1-for-1 program is where for every residential install we do in the United States, we actually provide power to a family in Haiti. And I've got a video that will go through that program because that's near and dear to my heart, that we are giving back to people who don't have access to power the way we do. So definitely a big deal for us. We were voted as Virginia's #1 solar installer, and we are number 30th in the country. So growing very quickly with that happening. And we're currently in 11 states, and we hope to continue our growth throughout the country. So definitely a lot happening within the organization. So I want to talk a little bit about why we're different. So I think anybody out there can say, hey, I'm going to install solar on your house, but we really differentiate ourselves from a customer perspective. So we actually have customized design for every single customer. So we work on that. We have the produce and reduce package, which is outlined up here. So with the produce and reduce package, we go through and we do energy efficiency. So obviously installing solar is going to help reduce somebody's costs, but if the house is inefficient, they're going to lose a lot of power through the house. So we actually send a team in who looks at, do they have LED lights? Do they have a Nest thermostat? Do they have the right insulation? And if they don't, we replace all that for them. So this is free to our customers, which is a really big deal for us. We make sure that they have the Pearl Home certification. This helps actually improve the value of the home with that type of certification. We have a double money back guarantee production. And then, like I talked about, we have our 1-for-1. So there's a lot of things that we offer to our customers if they purchase solar from us. So 1-for-1, like I talked about, this is a big deal for us. We really want to help out Haiti. Our owner was in the Peace Corps, and he's very committed to supporting Haiti. Only 1 out of every 10 people have access to the grid. So if you think about not having access to power, it affects healthcare, it affects education, it affects security and safety. There's so many different things. It's hard to start a business without power. So we're really working to provide that to them. I'm not sure if you all are aware, but there's a lot of turmoil in Haiti right now. So we're trying to help Haiti with what's happening. So this is a big deal for us. And I have just a quick video. I'm not sure if we have sound, so we'll find out about that. But I'd love for you to see what happens with us.
So I started Solar Solar in 2011.
Everybody here?
The vision behind the solar energy company at the time was to provide access to clean energy, not only here in the United States, but around the world. How is any part of modern life happen up to this? It doesn't. It doesn't. So why Haiti? Because it's the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Only 12.5% of the population has access to a connection from the national utility. And even those 12.5% have energy for only 4 to 6 hours every day.
ADPRE was founded to take over the social aspect of Segura Haiti's work, provide public street lights in each of the municipalities, which increases safety in the community and extends the workable hours for small businesses. The lights can operate from people grids that allow for energy access for even the most remote areas that cannot be connected to the main.
We started with the electrification of a clinic in Nicola, a village of 5,000 people. It is 7 hours from the capital on inaccessible roads in an area that never had access to electricity before. From this clinic, we expanded to the whole town, the whole area, neighboring municipalities. HAPREP provides electricity to public use buildings such as schools, clinics, police stations, and public markets at no cost to the municipalities.
Before in Haiti, we don't have electricity 24 hours. Today, 100% in the world people have access to electricity.
The mission of the partnership between HAPRE and Segura Solar is to increase the reach of these efforts, to save lives and improve the resilience of the people of Haiti. For every home that chooses Segura in the United States, one home in Haiti is provided 24/7 clean, renewable electricity. HAPRE provides training for small business development to build a gender-inclusive generation that can advance my country.
Slide. There we go. All right. So we are very excited about the one-to-one program. It makes our employees very happy to be able to give back and help other people who don't have the same luxuries that we have. I want to talk some statistics about Segura from a workforce perspective. So as of right now, we have got over 200 direct and indirect employees. We were voted the #1 place to work in Charlottesville by CMO Magazine, so we were really excited about that. 25% of our employees are diverse, so that definitely is an area that we are excited about but want to continue to grow. 43% of our leaders are female. We have 30% female in our total employee population, which is low. We are working to have gender parity by the year 2021, but I will tell you 30% is higher than the solar average, so we are on the right trend there. The number I'm most excited about is that 27% of our employees have been promoted over the past 12 months. That is a really big deal, and I think that shows all the opportunity that's out there in solar. So because there's so much growth and so much happening, and we really focus on trying to promote from within rather than going outside the company, we are seeing that quite a bit. So that's definitely a big deal. We're really excited about that piece. We talked about SIA earlier. These are some key takeaways from a diversity study they did this year and they published the results from. So with this, we noticed some pretty interesting things. One of the things is solar is slightly more diverse than the US workforce. So really seeing some good opportunities there. There are more and more solar companies who are committed to having a plan to hire more diverse employees and also hire more female employees. So again, a lot of positive steps being taken from a solar perspective. And what we're also finding out from a solar perspective is that people are satisfied with their career growth. And that goes back to what happened with my company. Because companies are growing so quickly, there's a lot of opportunity. This is not a company or an organization where you're going to be in the same position for 10 years. There's tons of opportunity to grow if people are interested. So we're really excited about that and the fact that people can grow within their own organization and not have to leave. And, as a startup, our employees work really hard. I will tell people if they want a 9-to-5 job, that is not the place to be. Our people do put in a lot of hours. They're very committed to being successful and making sure that we're doing the right thing for the environment and for our customers. But in turn, we try to take care of our employees. So you can see here, we have multiple get-togethers. We have summer bashes. We have holiday gatherings. We just had costume party back for Halloween. So we try to do a lot of things to give back to our employees and make sure that they understand how much we appreciate what they're doing for the organization. So a big focus for us, but we do have to have fun, which is great to see. I do want to talk a little bit about some legislation and some things that are happening with Virginia and solar. I think through some of this information, our numbers line up mostly. It might be off by a little bit. I don't think we're ever going to have exact numbers from different areas. But currently we have 1.07% of our electricity comes from solar. So we definitely see there's a huge opportunity in that area. The fuel mix is 31% nuclear, so that means that 68% of our portfolio has to be carbon-free. So if we're going to be carbon-free, that's really going to come from solar and wind. So again, we'll start to see more and more opportunities in career growth. Glenn talked about the growth of jobs. So right now, every 12th job in Virginia is solar, and solar is growing at 7 times the Virginia economy. So just so much opportunity out there, it's almost hard to keep up. One of the biggest things that was just announced a couple of months ago is that the Commonwealth has set a goal to produce 100% of our electricity from carbon-free resources by the year 2050. I know 2050 sounds really far, but 100% means that we're going to have to start growing things now to get to that goal. So keep that in mind, that that's really going to help support the growth as well. And then I did want to talk about some of the challenges we are facing from a legislative perspective, both federal and in the state of Virginia. So tariffs continue to increase the cost for solar. That is an ongoing challenge for us. The ITC, we really believe needs to be extended at 30% for at least 5 more years. I'm not sure if you all are aware, it's supposed to step down next year. So we are concerned with that piece. Federal policies are putting pressure on state economies and solar economics, so that's a challenge for us. And it's becoming challenging for companies to have a reasonable profit with the tariffs and ITC. So we're really looking at those pieces and trying to get support to make some changes. In Virginia, we've got the net metering cap, so that is a challenge for us. We've got the power purchasing agreement cap, which is a challenge. We have standby charges, so charges that are going on utility bills for people who are utilizing solar, and then we've got limited solar deployment. So definitely some challenges. We still believe there's going to be a lot of growth, but it makes it a little bit challenging for us as we work through some of this legislation. Okay. So I just want to wrap up and talk about some HR advice, and this is if you want to get into solar, but also applies if you don't want to get into solar. These probably apply as well. But there's so much opportunity in solar, so there's a lot of things to keep in mind. Please make sure you consider all opportunities. You never know what this job could be like, so find out about it, learn as much as you can. Think outside the box. From a personal perspective, I live in Richmond. I was very nervous when I was talking to Segura about somewhere that's over an hour commute each way. And I was like, gosh, I even put my name in the hat for it, but I did. And when I talked to the CEO, he's like, I don't need you there 5 days a week. You can work in a coffee shop for all I care. So I work in the office 3 or 4 days a week, and I work remotely a couple of days a week. Works out great for me, works out great for the company. It's a win-win. Who would have thought that? So unless I asked the CEO. Make sure you research the company. Do their morals line up with what you're looking for? Are they focused in on doing the right thing for the environment, the right thing for the customer? Are they there just to make a profit? How do they treat their employees? So try to find all that out. Make sure you ask questions. I will tell you, when I do an interview, the number one thing that stands out to me is a candidate who does not ask questions. Because to me, they don't really care about the company. They don't really care about what's happening, the culture. So I really want those people who ask questions. And be open to looking outside of your comfort zone. Don't feel like you got to stay into doing what you've always done. Companies are really creative these days. And then the don'ts are pretty straightforward, but I think I have to talk about these because it's on my soapbox. Please, when you get an offer from, say, 2 companies, don't go just with a company that pays more money. I get this question all the time. So if company A offers you $45,000, company B offers you $50,000, most people want to go with the $50,000. We really want to find out, what do they offer? What is their total compensation? So do they pay a larger percent of your medical premiums? Do they match your 401k at 5%? Do you get 4 weeks of vacation? So look at everything before you make a decision. You might find that $45,000 job has a total comp of $60,000, and that's probably the better job to go with. So keep that in mind. Excuse me. Make sure you're open to trying new things. As a startup, I am doing things I've never done before. I oversee fleets. I don't know anything about managing cars, and guess what? Now I know a ton of stuff. So, be open to those ideas. It's great to learn new things. Don't discount yourself based off the job qualifications. If you have 4 out of 5, talk to the company. They might be willing to work with you. They might be willing to get you some training to do whatever you need. And this last one might sound kind of funny, but please don't forget to write thank you notes when you interview. I will tell you, I'm seeing a huge decline in people actually even sending an email to say thank you. I don't expect a handwritten note, even though that is an awesome, awesome touch. But just a simple email to say, I enjoyed your time, really interested in your company, would love to talk to you more. That means a lot to the hiring manager. So please don't forget to do that. And then I just want to end on jobs in solar. I think we're also focused on jobs in solar being that solar technician who's putting panels on the rooftop, the electrician who's hooking things up. But please keep in mind that there are so many other jobs. The bigger solar companies, they need marketing, they need IT, they need finance, and they need human resources. You can see how that stands out, because that's near and dear to my heart. But there are all kinds of jobs out there that fall under the solar umbrella. So like me, I could not, if you're like me, I could not begin to put a panel on top of a roof, but I still get the joy of working for a solar company and doing what I love. So that's a great one. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Joey. You're next.
Yeah. Cool, thanks, Heather. That last slide was super important. So what I'd like to start out with is talking about solar jobs. So everybody in here stand up, please. All right, so now everybody look around, because the most important job in solar is to be an advocate. And every single person in here is an advocate, so give yourself a round of applause. And thank you very much. It's really massively important to be an advocate for solar. I think that is the first step. Not only an advocate, but to also be a referrer or something of that nature. That's kind of how I got into solar. I was actually just sitting here thinking, quick personal note is that I've had 14 different jobs in the solar industry. And I was actually thinking about that number when he said 50,000 different families that I've helped go solar. And that's actually a real number. I started with Solar City, which was the largest residential solar installer on the planet back in 2011. And I worked with them basically until the end of last year. And I oversaw Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, Hawaii. I worked in California. I worked in Texas. So there's a lot of different areas to work in as well. But I actually wrote them down. And so, as Heather said, there's more than just, slapping glass on roofs, as we call it as an installer. My personal jobs, I've been an installer, I was a designer, I was an engineer, I was a safety manager, I was a permit runner, I was an inspection coordinator, I've been a project manager, a residential ops manager, a commercial ops manager, a lead generator knocking on doors, I was a sales rep, I was a sales manager, I was a sales director, and I was also an owner of a solar company in that time as well. And so there's a big thing in the solar industry, and it happens, again, it starts with advocacy. It's a way of what I would call rage against the machine. And what that is that right now, we all know that we don't have a choice where we get our electricity from. You have a lifetime agreement, so does your mom, so does your sister, so does your brother, so does your dad, your uncle, your aunt. Everyone has a lifetime agreement with their utility company, whether you like it or not. You didn't sign up for it, it just happened, right? So the way to rage would be to be an advocate, be part of a solar company, whether you're working in HR, whether you're installing on a roof, whether you're selling, whether you're owning, whether you're referring, it doesn't matter, right? Whether you become part of a local organization like, say, the Norfolk Solar Fund, okay? And what they do is they provide PPAs, like they talked about earlier today in the other room, to schools and to buildings and other places that are in qualified opportunity zones. Okay, so this is a different thing that no one ever even talks about, is to work in areas that are qualified opportunity zones, and to train people there, to advocate and just go around and knock on doors to get building owners to go solar. So that's just another way to do it. Part of being in a solar job is the fun and the passion. I know plenty of people that are not passionate about their jobs and they don't have any fun, and they are super bah humbug, and I don't like having a beer with them. And so I highly recommend looking into a solar position. If you guys want to talk to me about it, talk to any of these folks about it, Glenn, any of our customers, anything, just do it, right? The only way to learn is by doing, okay? If you're uncomfortable, the only way to become comfortable is to learn and to use your hands and to get in there and use your head. And then you become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And whether that's getting up on the roof, learning about how to talk about solar, talking in policy, that's a massive one, as Glenn was talking about before during lunch. Holy Toledo, that is probably one of the most important jobs we could have in solar is to really get out there and talk to people, because what you're doing is you're utilizing that passion, and it seems to be why everybody here, or why everybody is here today, is there's a little bit of passion, at least a little bit of passion in everybody today about solar. And you will find that whether it's the warehouse manager or the guy that's a temp just running panels out at the end of the year to installations. Everybody has that passion for clean energy. Everybody you speak to when you start with a solar job or you interview at a solar company is 1000% stoked on their job. That's it, hands down. I've never met anybody in a solar company that's been not happy, and if they ever were, they probably left before I got to shake their hand. And the people are, especially when you're installing. So when you're installing, the people are proud of what they do. It's very rare that you can go and build something that makes clean energy on somebody's roof and be proud of that, but also ask Mrs. Johnson or ask Mrs. Johnson to walk out of her house and say, hey, Mrs. Johnson, check this out. And then she starts to cry. Why does she start to cry? Because now she doesn't have an electricity bill anymore, right? Now she can budget or she can balance her budget even more, right? So the reach is far. It's not just, yeah, I did a couple spreadsheets today or whatever it is. I did a couple spreadsheets today in the office because we're doing this, and this to get solar on people's houses. I put a couple bolts in the roof today because this to get Mrs. Johnson solar, right? So solar is exciting, okay? And whether you're looking to put panels on roofs or to sell, there's 1,000 different ways to do it. 1,000 different ways to do it. I'm sure Heather has like a list of every single way you could do it. And all I'm here to say is just try it, right? I'm just an advocate for solar jobs. I don't care who you work for, where you work. I just want you to try it. I want you to be an advocate for solar. If you can't get a solar job, go out there and refer people, right? And if you just bring, like Glenn said again, bring one friend with you. That's it, because then they can bring a friend and everybody can pay it forward. So again, guys, thank you for being interested in solar jobs, and I hope to see you soon.
All right, that's pretty great. So I've come from a very small town. I was, my school had a whole 2 students in it, me and my older brother. I was the most unpopular kid in my entire school. I was bullied a lot. The principal didn't like me. I got spankings from my teacher. It was not a fun time. But I guess you could say I had humble beginnings. I actually started working at a Boy Scout camp. Boy Scout camp was my first time that I ever worked. It was the first time I ever got my paycheck, all $125 a week. It was a great time. But that's where I learned that it doesn't really matter much about the paycheck. Yeah, it's important. Yeah, you need to be able to pay those bills, but where is it important that you're going to have fun and enjoy your job? Where are you going to go and be like, I get to go to work today. I get to do this. I get to do that. I get to go meet people. I get to have a job. Not I have to go to work. Oh, that alarm clock's going off. I have to do this. I have to do that. Like, it's so important to have a job where you're really, really enjoying yourself. So I have a couple slides here that I'm going to be showing of just about what we do at Shotgo Solar. And so pull this up here. So a little bit of my background. So again, I started at the Boy Scout camp, but I went from there. So I started there, and after that, I actually worked at a theme park. I was a professional con artist at a theme park. I worked in the games. So we talk people in, swindle them out of the money. They end up walking away with a $65 teddy bear and with a smile on their face. A little interesting, but not very fulfilling, because I felt like I was taken away from people. I didn't really have a job where, you know, I felt good about myself and what I did. So After that, I actually worked in the entertainment department at the theme park, King's Dominion. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, in Dawsonville, Virginia. I was a dancer there, but again, it wasn't really that much of a fulfilling job. It was fun, I enjoyed it, but it was very temporary. And there wasn't really anything I was doing for people other than, putting a smile on their face, but where was the lasting effect? Yeah, they get to see a show, they clap, and they leave. So what? So the craziest thing is actually where I met my boss. Can anyone take a guess?
King's Dominion.
Was it King's Dominion? It wasn't a job fair. It was at the gym. He and I started at a cross-training gym together in January 2016. We actually started at the same time. We had a startup class together. And about a month in, he goes, "Hey, would you like to work in solar?" And at that time, I was actually working in the restaurant industry. I was washing dishes. And I was like, "Heck yeah, I need to get out of this industry, man. Like, I'm ready to go." And he goes, and I was, let's say, I would have been 18 at the time, getting paid $8.50 an hour. He goes, "I'll pay you $15 an hour to install solar panels." I'm like, "I'm there. I'll be there Monday. Let's go. I'm ready to do this." So the biggest thing that I've always kept in my life is it's very, very important to be flexible. Be willing to say yes. Yes, I'll do that. Absolutely. For sure. You never know. You never know what you're going to learn. Again, I'm a jack of all trades. I work on everything from computers to cars. I'm working with my hands. I'm considered a therapist by my friends. So it's always really, really important to be able to be willing to do anything that you want to do, because you never know what you're going to love to do. And I never knew, if you asked me 5 years ago, "Hey, in 5 years you're going to be in the solar industry and you're going to be doing it for a very long time and you're going to enjoy it." Like, excuse me, what? Solar? So this is a typical work day. Usually this is about those 2 o'clock drag when we're running out of energy. But usually how we end up. That's not the picture I wanted. No. So like that fun. Here's actually a really good picture of how we were able to supply a bunch of jobs. If you actually can see here, it only looks like there's one job in this photo, right? The installer. But actually in this job, we have an installer. This boom lift, we actually bought this boom lift from a local company in Ashland, Virginia, family owned. And when we bought this boom lift, we were able to give them, be able to support our local economy here and be able to give them a job as well. This trailer, we actually were able to hire a design team to be able to design this trailer. It's actually a completely off-grid mobile field office. So you can see it has solar panels on the top. It's about 3 kilowatts. We have heating, air conditioning, and internet, and we're able to actually charge our boom lift. It's an electrical boom lift. We're able to charge it from this trailer. Then, where we get these panels from, we have a local distributor, family-owned business, that we actually able to get these panels from. Yes, it does cost us a little bit more, but we're also supporting our local economy. It's very, very important. Here's a little bit more of the work we do. This is on Hackneyville work out in West Point, Virginia, and this is kind of just a simple design of that we do like to take our time, and we like to make things pretty. It's always really important to make things pretty. And then there's a leg of our boom lift right there. This is our work truck. So simple, loading everything down. We like to push things to the limit. That's about, I would say, about 1,500 pounds of solar panels in the back of that work truck. Don't ask us how we got it in there with the ladder rack. That was quite an adventure. This is a resident out in near Deltaville, Steve Wan. He's actually here at this conference. I believe, Taj, have you met Steve Wan? All right, well, we'll get you in touch with Steve Wan. He's very, very excited, and he loves this way. And we also like to make things, again, look very pleasing to the eye, let's say. So a lot of people, we need to understand, like, going into solar and going into any job in general, there's going to be times where you're doing things you didn't expect you're going to be doing. So I'm not sure if you've ever been up in your attic, let's say, to go get those decorations down or put things up during the summer. Attics can get pretty hot. And you imagine being up there for an hour, running conduit and pulling wire, and being like a little monkey man up in the rafters there. So again, your job can catch you off guard. But as you can see, we have a smile on our face, ready to go, and we enjoy it every day. This is another residential job. Just carry around solar panels, trying to show off. You know, I work out, so I can carry one. It's a 40-pound panel. Doing one-handed. This is actually the CEO and the owner of the company, sweeping up the trailer. I had to take a photo of him actually working. I think it's pretty important. This is actually a rare photo. Only joking. What's actually really what's really different about our job is that our owner and CEO and operator is actually on every single job that we do. And not to be there that he doesn't trust us to do our work, but he actually wants to work and wants to be on the job site. And it's actually a very good moral support that he's not only a boss, but he's also a leader. He's able to show us. And sometimes there's points where we're like, hey, we're really confused. What do you need to do here? So he's able to show us like, oh yeah, the conduit, we can run it this way. We can do it this way. And it's like, oh, there's this trick of being able to install it to even something out. It's very humbling, the amount of knowledge that he knows, but he also is holding back a little bit. So I'm not sure what his whole plan is there. This is actually one of the very large project that we just finished in Richmond. This is the American Tobacco. So 384 kilowatt it was a tobacco plant that turned into, they were renovating into apartment complexes. So this is actually a really, really fun project, but it took us about, I would say, 4.5 months about to complete. And this is actually one roof, and there were 6 of these roofs, and each roof had 2 of these large inverters on them. This is able to, like I said, power an apartment complex. And they're actually looking to get an array about twice this size on another roof as well. But again, we do commercial and residential. And it's fun to have a job that's very, very versatile, and every day is different. And that's one thing I really, really enjoy about working with solar. Again, we like to make things beautiful. I don't want to tell you the amount of colorful language we had. A little more colorful in the wires that are in this combiner box to make things look the way they do. But Boss Man has the way that he wants things done, and we enjoy our job enough that we don't just flip on the bird and say we're going to do things our own way. We're like, all right, you want it that way? We'll get it done for you. This is implementing our aerial man lift, been turned into a crane to haul these spools of wire. They're about 550 pounds up onto a roof. Again, this is at the American Tobacco Project. This is actually the full project. That's the Richmond city skyline, as you can see. And this is the American Tobacco plant. There's old smokestacks. All the buildings over here on the right with the white TPO. This is actually where all of the apartment complexes are. And where we put the solar on is actually warehouses that they're going to be using that are going to be renting out. I just really like this photo because it shows your old architecture and old and new, exactly. So you have new solar, you're looking towards the future, but not forgetting our roots and where we came from in Richmond and as a community. And then of course you have the Richmond city skyline as well, just to remember where you are. This is actually a very, very fun night that we had at American Tobacco. So this is an electrical contractor from a local company, U.S. Electric, based out of Richmond. This man had a work ethic like I can never believe. This picture was taken about 1:30 in the morning. We were there until about 3, trying to figure out how we were going to route and pull these wires through this combiner box. Every single one of these wires that you see here had to be cut and terminated behind all of those breakers that you see there. And these wires don't bend easily. It's not like it's rope. About a foot of wire is about 2.5 to 3 pounds. So when you're dealing with 20 feet of wire, you're dealing with 40, 50 pounds of wire times 20 of them. Again, you never know what's going to hit you when you're working in the solar industry. So this is us implementing our farm equipment for solar. Because again, this is the very large spools of wire that we pulled through to run underneath the ground to be able to get from the warehouses on the left side of the American Tobacco to the electrical control room on underneath the apartments. This is Landis. This is, we're actually a very small company. I forgot to mention that currently it's just 3 of us. It's me, one other guy named Garrett, who's under me, and then Bernie Stanley, our owner and CEO. But when we have a larger commercial project, we'll always hire temporary help or even people that will stick on. Garrett, we actually hired for American Tobacco, and he realized how good of a worker he was, and he stuck with us ever since. For some reason, I can't get rid of him. But this is Landis, very, very hard worker, absolutely wonderful human being, always fun to be around. And we'll actually be bringing her back onto the team. She went and wanted to work with a different company because it was a little closer to her home and a little bit easier to get to, but she actually wants to come back on and work with us. And we're going to be starting some commercial projects soon that she'll be able to help out with. Here's another residential, basically showing all of our equipment. And this is again out near Duncanville. And as you can see, we love safety. Safety is number one priority. Don't look at that. This is actually a really, really hot day. It was about 102 degrees on the ground and on a black asphalt shingle roof. Got a little sweaty up there. So here's just a simple photo showing our mounting process on an asphalt shingle roof. Simple flashings. So then we'll attach the rails on top of that, and then the rails, and then on top of the rails we'll put the panels. So most people say solar is clean energy, but it's not clean work. So this is actually in a very small crawl space where we were running conduit and wire. And that's actually the owner of the company. That's Bernie Stanley right there. So he wants us, whenever he does work, he wants us to take photos to prove to people that he does stuff. But here you go, here's a photo. He's actually just sticking his head through the crawl space door, and then he went right back out. So he's like, put dirt on me to make it look like I'm working. So this is actually another steep roof out near, again, also near Deltaville. It's near Hyattsville. We, out of the goodness of his heart, our Bernie Stanley, he bought us this boom lift because he didn't like. He was actually for his benefit because he didn't want to hear us complaining about carrying panels up a ladder anymore. So he actually bought this boom lift for us to make jobs way easier, and it was very, very helpful. We actually able to install a first rail at the top of the roof to then attach our safety equipment to. So it makes our job way easier. And again, if it's easier, it's usually more fun. This is Andrew. We're actually be rehiring him again for a commercial project. He was there. This is actually the guy that taught me most of the stuff that I know before he went and started working with a different company. It was also more convenient for him. This is me with we call this a shingle respector. Basically be able to respect the shingles, to open them up, and then be able to put flashings up underneath. If we run out of safety equipment, sometimes we have to make do. This is always a fun time, and this is actually on a service call that we had, and we didn't realize the problem that we had, but it was 1 hour and 45 minutes north, and we only had 3 hours to get it done, so we didn't have time to go back and get our things, so we made do. It's always good to be resilient and figure out your problems. It's a lot of problem solving. I really enjoy it. This is a picture of our warehouse. This is right before one of our commercial projects. We had a delivery of solar panels. Again, never knew I was going to learn how to use a forklift in solar, but we did. This is on at the University of Richmond. This is actually an experimental project that we had. This is like the first project that I worked on. It was using 2 different types of panels, actually using bifacial panels as well, which actually are able to collect sun from both sides of the panel. What's very useful, they wanted to use it on a white roof because the reflector of the sun would be able to power the panels better. And then it was an experiment as well because it was the first time they were able to use these bifacial panels. And my boss wanted to make sure that, to put this in here, and that this is the difference between working for somebody and working with somebody. So a boss is someone who just shows up on the job site, tells you what you've been doing wrong, and is yelling at everybody, nobody's having a good time. But a leader is someone that will show you how to do things, work with you through the problems, and make sure that the job is done correctly. So that's a little bit insight on working with a smaller solar business. We always like to have fun, and the biggest thing is carpe diem. Find the fun in every single day, even if it's raining, even if you woke up late and something bad happened. Try to find that fun in every single day, because you never know what's gonna happen. So don't let your job kill you. You kill your job.
Questions?
Are you looking for people to work for job in this company?
We actually will eventually. We're actually about to start getting greenlit for about a megawatt of commercial projects that we will be looking for installers. No previous experience necessary, but if you come after the panel, I'll give you a card and get you in contact if you like.
That was my question for all of you, I guess, is sort of how many employees do you have or installers, and are most of them full-time, part-time benefits?
So everyone that works at Convert is a full-time employee. We're growing just as fast as probably any of these guys as well. The solar industry is growing super fast. But there's always spaces available for someone if they don't want to be on the roof, if they want to be in sales, or if they want to be working out of the office, out of their house, doing something permanent. It's all full-time work, and it's all well paid, which is great. Nothing's ever minimum wage in a solar company that I've ever seen.
I'd say the same thing for my company, that we're always looking for great installers, always looking for great salespeople, and it's full-time for sure. So it's something we continue to recruit for.
Do you guys have schedule coordinators at your company? Yeah, I was a solar schedule coordinator for a company. Yeah, so that's why I was wondering.
Very cool, yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a high demand as well, so much going on.
Cool.
What does it take to become a designer?
So how I became a designer, I was on the roof, and this is again at a small solar company, and I was the lead installer, and they were like, maybe we should design these plans before we go out and install them. And so that's how we become a designer. But actually, to really become a designer is understanding CAD is pretty important, right? Because you can go in and just design the system in CAD, and after you have a bunch of templates made, then you just sit back, relax, and just click the templates, and it makes themselves. You also should definitely become very well versed in the NEC code, National Electric Code. 2017, I believe Virginia is going to go to next year, if I'm not mistaken. Right now we're 2014. Yep. And we're going to be going to 2017 next year. So I bought a code book and just read it, and it was confusing as hell.
Yes.
What kind of training, would benefit you guys? If you want to train people to come to you, what kind of training would you get?
First, so you get training, like say like a person coming to us to become trained?
Like, I work at community college. If we wanted to create a training position, what would, you're saying there's not really much involved. Is there anything that we could do to help prepare?
Oh yeah, I would say it's like learning a different language.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, we're starting to work with some of the local community colleges in Charlottesville to help do some training while they're in school. And then, but if people don't have the spiritual line to train,
Is it like physical, or is it more computers or permitting or
All of the above.
all of it, yeah, absolutely.
There's so many different jobs that you can do in solar that it's not just being an installer or just being a salesperson. There's so many involved. I'm definitely more on the installer side, so I would say that what would be very helpful for coming out and wanting to be an installer
what could be beneficial would be something like a trade school, very simple, learning about electrical code and things like that, and just understanding the basics of AC and DC current, knowing the basic of how solar works would be very, very important. And even a little bit of design, if you have an eye of being able to know what would look good versus just saying like, oh, we need to get A to B, let's just take the easiest route. If you know simple construction and skills like that, to be an installer, and that's what I can speak for them does.
For sure. And then for training as well, there's actually, like you say, you work for a community college, there's actually a lot of companies that are starting now that are specifically training people. Again, so I'll use the qualified opportunity zone like Ruth Edmondson talked earlier. There's specific companies that are starting just to train people in renewable energy and clean energy, whether it's installing, designing, project management, or whatever it may be.
You all both work on both residential and commercial projects. On the residential side, what's really driving it right now? What's phone ringing? What's really driving this?
All of the above.
Can I add that question?
Yeah.
I want to add to that question.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking it. To what degree is the expiration of the ITC driving business? Or has it?
My phone rang 132 times yesterday. I swear. Yeah. So if you look on the Convert website, that's my phone number. And so my phone rang 132 times yesterday. And so I would say it's a pretty big driver.
People are saying, how can I qualify for that 30% back?
And I said, well, today's our last day for taking installs for the year. So, but no, we'll talk to anybody and everyone. But the driver is quite large. But then again, you'll talk to other people that the 30% is not their drive, right? Clean energy is their drive. They could care less if it's a, so
But it helps.
it definitely helps.
Yeah.
26%. I've talked to people yesterday. They was like, oh, okay, 30% can't really get that anymore unless you can install this shit. 26%. Cool. I'm cool with 26%. Right?
Still, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's like not that far from 30.
Yeah, it's something.
But it is going to zero out.
Yeah.
If we don't extend.
Yeah, exactly. So you snooze, you lose, Jack. So
That's actually what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The current ITC, if it's not renewed, will zero out for residential systems in 2021. No, 2022. And it'll remain at 10% for
commercial.
For looking for employees, y'all look at what Grid is doing up in DC. I think they came out of San Francisco.
Urban Grid?
Grid. Yeah, it's a they train a lot of economically challenged individuals. In the
So that's perfect. So it's QOZ. Actually, yeah. So that's great.
Grid, yeah.
I'll see if I look.
They're called Grid alternatives.
Grid alternatives. There it is. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually met with them a few times. It's a great group.
I got one question. What's your either one of you guys, what's your biggest obstacle when doing a commercial rather than residential?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Logistics, like pre-planning, like planning before the job. If it's not done properly, it can make the job take 2-3 times as long. Maybe not on a commercial, but definitely on a residential scale when you're only taking 2 or 3 days to do the job. If you run through an obstacle that causes you 2 or 3 days of delay, now you increase that length of the project, and now you can't get to your next project. So definitely planning beforehand is a very big thing. But there's sometimes those obstacles you wouldn't expect it. You always have to stay on your toes. Every job is different. So it's very, very good to be able to have really good problem solving skills, at least to be an installer.
Yeah.
On that sense.
The reason why I ask is I know a lot of small companies, solar companies, try to stay away from the commercial projects.
And that's where we're a little bit different, at least my company, is that we're very experienced in commercial projects and especially with historical projects as well, like with the American Flag. We're very knowledgeable of the ins and outs and how everything works with all sorts of paperwork and being able to get the best return on investment for everybody. And it's something that we've been doing for, I think, I would say about 9 or 10 years of doing commercial projects. So it's not something that we're unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
For Joe Schmo who just comes in and starts doing solar, like he's not gonna hop in and then have to put in $200,000 to buy supplies to go do a commercial project. He's not gonna have that.
Yeah.
So the residential is very, very important. It's much more simple to hop in and just start, putting 8, 10, 15 panels on a roof or ground mount for him, because it's much more easier for, let's say, someone who's a general contractor to be able to do that, as long as he learns how.
Commercial work is actually a lot easier than residential work.
I would actually say day to day.
On a day-to-day of it.
Like showing up day to day, commercial is a little bit easier because it's very repetitive. You're having to put on, for example, putting on panels, instead of putting on 15, you're putting on 1,000. And it's just going in, you get in that system, and you get a really efficient system, and it makes the day-to-day really
Folks, I've got the note from the person in the back that we got to wrap up. The closing session is starting right now. So, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your time.
Don't forget your thumbnail. What? Wait a second. You know,
I live in Richmond. We have the Richmond sales office, it's got some kitchen, so we have
That's good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, it's great.
Right, State Park Drive. Okay. One.
Hey, how are you?
Yes, you give your address.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that one is a right now.
So I mean, you can call it over as well. Yeah. He's on. So you gotta email.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was getting. Environment, I don't be the first, so
Sounds great. Well, please just keep an eye on that. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
So I got my own business. I have a music studio.
Just graduating?
Big.
Okay, cool.
They're all, that's what I love about it, is we are always training people, like,
It's
okay.
I can read.
Okay. Let me give you my card if you want to.